welcome back to the Recruitment Show. This is a super special one for me because it's great to announce that Jason Choi has joined us as head of APAC, based out of Tokyo, covering the region. It's a really cool one for me because we used to go to school together. This is going to be a really interesting journey. He's had a great career. He started as a veterinarian. He then went into big tech, at Meta, Amazon. He worked at Expedia. He's done some really cool things. And this podcast is going to just kind of unpack his career, why he's decided to leave big tech and join us, the world's leading global boutique executive search firm, and come and do something entrepreneurial and build out our capabilities in APAC. It's really cool. It's a great new chapter for us, and hope you enjoy the podcast. Jason, welcome to not only the podcast, but welcome to the Bentley team. It's a pleasure to have Jason joining us as head of APAC. Do you want to share our origin story?
Yeah, I mean, since we were 12, it's pretty long time. Yeah, we met in Watford Grammar, going up to all sorts of shenanigans back then.
Form F, I think.
Yeah, good memory. We're just hanging around and hanging at each other's houses, and we just became friends from school and had some good times there. And then I think we kind of kept in touch a bit, but then I think we went off to our respective universities. You went to Birmingham, I went to Bristol, and then kind of lost touch a little bit. But
so career-wise, after university, what happened?
So I'm a veterinarian by training. So I went to Bristol, did 5 years there at Bristol Vet School. I was in clinical practice for about 5 or 6 years. I really enjoyed it. I loved kind of like helping animals and saving lives and all that kind of stuff. But at some point, it kind of got a bit routine. I think some of my vet friends out there will kind of relate to this. It becomes lots of vaccinations and neuterings all day, every day. So I decided to kind of make a move out of the industry a little bit. I went off and did an MBA. So I decided to do that in Australia. So after my MBA, I did a bit of consulting, strategy consulting. So I enjoyed that. That was in Melbourne. But then I kind of missed kind of working in a bigger team. So I got recruited by Mars in the pet care division. So that obviously being a vet with an MBA is not so common. The kind of team there decided to take a chance on me and joined the marketing team there. That was based in Albury-Wodonga, if anyone's familiar with that, which is 3 hours north of Melbourne. After that, decided to go back to Melbourne, did a bit more consulting. And then I got headhunted for a job in Singapore with Hills, which is another pet food company, part of Colgate-Palmolive. So I was managing the kind of veterinary business for Asia for a couple of years there. And then decided, time for maybe a bit of a different industry, and jumped ship to Expedia. So I was with Expedia initially in a strategy role. So obviously with the kind of different strategy consulting type experience, then they said that was pretty cool. A lot of consultants come from finance or economics backgrounds. I have a bit of a different background, so they wanted a more of a unique perspective. Within Expedia, I actually transitioned into another role, which was around social impact and community engagement. So this is something that's really important to me. So I think giving back to the community and helping others is something that obviously attracted me to the recruitment business, because that's related to this. Then I moved over to Facebook at the time, now Meta, obviously. So that was in another marketing role, B2B marketing role, part of a team called Industry Marketing. And we were running kind of tentpole events and engaging with our agency partners and our various different kind of partners out there. So really exciting getting to speak to some of the celebrities and some of the top CEOs and C-suite stakeholders. So that was really, really great role. Actually, whilst I was with Expedia, I spent 6 months in Tokyo on a short-term assignment, and that was really great. So then I always wanted to kind of move back to Tokyo, and then was searching for roles in Tokyo as well. Just so happened that a friend introduced me to my old team at Amazon, and then I got a chance to work there for 2.5 years, and just recently left.
And so just in terms of the transition, a lot of folks I speak to are trying to transition for one reason or another. At what point did you think, do you know what, I want to do something different? And then, obviously joining us.
I've always kind of maybe just made these internal excuses. It's always I've got a mortgage to pay, or my visa's tied to my company, or kind of I'm not really ready to go out on my own and do something a bit more entrepreneurial and risky. Just I love my monthly paycheck and it's kind of stable and easy, right? So when your money's coming in, when you're going to pay your bills and how much you can spend each month. But now this kind of entrepreneurial life is a bit different. It's just kind of timing wise, I think now was probably the right time for me to do it. And
so you now joined Search, which is wonderful. But we're a boutique global search firm. A lot of our clients are global. They like to use us anywhere. People like to work with people they like and they trust and stuff. And as well as that, they like people local too. So we're global and local, and we work collaboratively together, which is great. So for us, like up until now, it's been UK, Europe, US. We've been doing a lot in the Middle East recently, specifically UAE and Saudi. We set up in Dubai. A lot of clients, they like we're global. They want us to be local. They like that we have companies in these different countries as well. Certain countries, as you know, Japan and Singapore in particular, you have to have a license. You need to be there and based. And so there's different, rules depending on where we're operating. But APAC is a great extension for us. I think still most of the world's population lives in APAC. The growth is there. It's interesting. And what's your take on it? What are you seeing in the region? And
in terms of APAC, obviously, just with the sheer size of like China and India, APAC as a region is one of the most dynamic and kind of most fragmented kind of regions in the world, right? So there's lots of different countries and lots of different cultures, and the language is not common. Everyone kind of like has their own local nuances and things like that. So the growth is still there. There's obviously China's still growing a little bit. So I was just kind of looking at the GDP stats. So 4% growth still, India 6%, Southeast Asia is still growing as well, 4-5%, depending on the country. Some of it slowed down a bit. So you can see like Japan, Korea and Australia a little bit lower in the 1 or 2%, which is comparable to like the US and like Western Europe now as well. Interestingly, you can see like Africa and kind of Central Asia are like 6% plus. So still massive growth there. I think Asia's it's so dynamic. There's so much going on. There's obviously the big hubs like Singapore and Hong Kong for finance hubs and fintech, and now crypto hubs as well, obviously with crypto, AI, blockchain and everything like that. So all these kind of countries and hubs want to be kind of like the place to be and the place to set up. So it's super interesting. Yeah, I've got friends at Stripe and Adyen and these different kind of like fintech players. So I think they're just making big moves there, and like the payments, cross-border payments will just change remarkably over the next few years.
I hear China increasing they are hugely increasing their energy output.
And obviously with like the US administration now and going up against China, there's a lot of tension there, but like the trade deals are still kind of like in talks and things like that. So I think it'd be an interesting dynamic.
How have like tariffs landed in APAC?
China thing is a bit of the biggest kind of difference there. There's a huge tension between the current president and then with China and things like that. So I think there's still ongoing kind of discussions, but hopefully that will kind of like, and it's affected the markets a lot, right? So you've seen like share prices dropping, and I think it'll be a really interesting kind of conversation over the next few months. But I think tariffs, even I've got a friend here, he's in the shipping industry. The business and the economy is like really been affected by tariffs and these kind of conversations that are going on. So Asia is a massive hub for like manufacturing and importing and exporting, and then moving products into the US has become like much harder. With the US wanting to manufacture in the US as well, just there's kind of been talks of Trump making a phone but also fully manufactured in the US, which would be super interesting. So there's kind of a shift in kind of like dynamics and like political geo things going on next year or so. I think it'd be super interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, US doesn't have the capability to manufacture all of their stuff in the US, and like China and other countries in Asia are highly skilled. It's not just a cost play. Although I think labor is cheaper in China, let's say, compared to the US, but they're really good at manufacturing.
Definitely not so easy, and even sourcing like rare earth materials and things like that they're not really present in the US, right? So you have to get them from another country. So I think it's going to be hard to fully manufacture in the US.
One thing I've also seen on talent, which is quite interesting, and just talk a bit about India, because we have been doing a bit in India the last few years, but we've been hiring leadership talent from outside of India, mostly like Europe, Japan, into India, because India are really trying to up their game, up the skill set, and buy in talent from outside of the country to both work in these companies and also teach and upskill. Yeah. That whole thing's going to be interesting to see.
My brother, this is like several years ago, but he was asked in conversations with his company to move to Chennai. They have like a big office there. Yeah. So he explored it. He went over there. I think it's just, you have to be kind of open to the idea of like living in India, which is like, for me, I love it there. It's like just so colorful and there's so much like culture going on, but it is a massive culture shock if you haven't lived outside of your kind of Western country before. So moving talent from the UK or from the US into India, you might live in like a very comfortable kind of expat bubble, but then once you kind of hit the streets, it's just, it's kind of a little bit overwhelming. So a lot of expat contracts are now moving people to like these developing countries, and they're very comfortable, like school, the kids' education is paid for, housing is paid for, you get flights home, all this kind of stuff. But actually living on the ground is like, a little bit different from what you kind of expect. Yeah.
And do you know what? I'd have to say this last few years, given we do global recruiting, I would say so many people I speak with are open to an adventure or moving internationally. Family. There's been a lot of work we've been doing, moving people to the UAE or Saudi, pre-COVID probably, in that region. Out of 10 people, maybe 1 or 2 would be like, I'm interested. Now it's like 8, 9 out of 10 people are I'd like to, and this is like, whether we're sourcing we source all over, but let's say like Europe, UK, Europe and stuff. There's many people that have been interested in exploring the opportunities there and actually leave. I mean, we've moved a lot of people this last year there. The market itself there in the UAE, positive beacon, I think, around that region. I mean, there's obviously a lot of conflict and things going on there, which is affecting different things. But UAE has been a growth area and a good story, and it's turned into a real good market to build a career. India is, it's also interesting. I mean, I think we tried to set up our own firm there. We did. In the end, we've ended up with a really good partnership there. The wonderful firm who happened to be in Chennai. But it's a good spot. It's a good spot. I went to Mumbai about 6-7 months ago. And not even been to Mumbai, go to Mumbai. It's great, crazy, vibrant, growing, loads of energy. Clearly, like a country to watch. I mean,
like the UAE, I think super fascinating place, right? So no income tax. It's like very appealing for some people. I think I've got friends who live in Dubai as well. I think what they're saying is like, there's no income tax, but then things are a little bit more expensive. So you probably kind of pay a little bit more for like a meal or things like that. But I think a lot of people are moving from London or from like different kind of expensive places where inflation is just gone a bit out of control, because now they want to kind of experience something that's a bit more, they can save a bit more money. The economy in the UK is kind of like not as good as it used to be. So I think, people are very much open to different experiences. And it's not forever, right? So you can do like a 2-year, 3-year contract and then go home after that. So I think, it's a great experience.
In the UK, is a bit of a down arrow. At the moment, there's a bit of a push. Loads of high net worths have been leaving. They've changed the tax regime, and there's been a lot of like push, and a lot of these high net worths, whatever industry they're in, let's say financial services, private equity folks, high earning bankers, many of which might not be born in the UK, are actually geographically mobile, and they don't have that like kind of family tie there. Are happy to move around, and many have gone to the UAE. Actually,
I mean, I always say staying in one place. So if you did 1 year staying in your home country versus 1 year overseas, it's equivalent of maybe like 3 years of work experience, just in terms of like learning something new, different cultures, different working styles. Everywhere has very different kind of cultural nuances and working styles. Like Japan is traditionally known for like hierarchy and process driven kind of things. So learning that kind of way to work in Japan is, some of my friends have very like struggled to kind of like come to terms with like the way that things are done here, but some people just love it. It's just kind of like very structured, and you kind of like follow the set of rules that are in place for you. So I think it's kind of like great learning if you just have an opportunity to go overseas. And I always tell people, you should definitely go for it. Just try something different.
Speaking to a guy the other day, he's chair of an insurance company, but anyway, he spent his career in banking, and his number one thing was the big like recruiting thing he would do was only hire people that had lived in multiple locations, because he believed that you learn an awful lot working in different countries, working with different cultures. I talk quite a bit about being culturally fluent, being able to ability to get on with people, no matter where they are in the world, no matter whether you agree with them on politics or this or that, but just being able to get on with someone and like find the common grounds, build something together, do work together and stuff is a huge strength. Huge strength. But so many people can't do that. Some of the best leaders I see now that have that ability, especially if you're in a large global firm, your team might be dispersed. And, how do you get the best out of these people? How do you build a nice, good culture and stuff like that? Massive. And even if you're, you've gone the entrepreneurial route, and like us, you're doing work all over the place. It's so important. Too many people that get really stuck in their view of the world, and you have the right mindset. A lot of people, they like to understand where, the culture of someone, where they're coming from. You can have a conversation with someone without it turning into an argument. You see a lot of the headlines, you see a lot of the stuff on social media. But I would just argue that kind of under that line where most people sit is actually a very understanding,
Yeah.
moderate, like kind of group who just want to like do business, learn, have fun.
Well, I've been to Russia, Ukraine, I've been to Iran, Iraq, I've been to North Korea. So I've visited all these countries, right? So, and this is all before like big wars came out. But I think you're right. So there's a big kind of like push in the media saying like, oh, these countries are the axis of evil and they're all kind of like doing bad things in the world. And I think it's to your point, like the leadership probably are doing great things in some of these countries, but that's not really for us to say. We're kind of like above our pay grade. But I think in terms of like the people on the ground, when you visit like the people in Iran, I was just walking around the streets and the markets, and everyone's just super friendly and just trying to help you out. And you ask for directions, and people are just like, yeah, it's over there. Like it's really kind of like super nice people, and they're just very welcoming for foreigners and things like that. It's just not really kind of like that station that kind of the media kind of portrays that, oh, it's just like a horrible place to be. But yeah, some of those beautiful mosques and these kind of things. And yeah, I mean, obviously like the whole Middle East is a little bit messy at the moment, but yeah, I've visited like quite a few of these countries, and I've been to like Israel and Palestine as well. I've been there. So it's like just kind of the conflict areas that is the history and like the everything there is just really, and Bosnia visited there as well. So some of these like crazy war stories, and you can see the aftermath of these wars and things like that. But it's some of the things that you see on the ground, and the people are just like super friendly and beautiful things there. Yeah.
So looking forward now for us, what are you most excited about now? Like you've left corporate America, but what are you most looking forward to now?
This kind of independence, right? It's just having the freedom to manage your own schedule and go meet new people from different companies and different industries, and learn about how different industries work and how the world works in their kind of like there from their perspective. I just really enjoy having these conversations. Like just when we talk about things, this is always fascinating for me. I always learn something new, and you've always got like a new kind of like facts to share as well. So I always enjoy that. And yeah, just similar to like when I meet some of these like VPs and C-suite stakeholders and things like that, just like from their perspective, like they're very experienced and they're very successful. So it's always great to learn from these folks who have kind of been around and done something really cool with their lives. And to your point, some might not be happy, so we hopefully can help them move to a different kind of like role and make them their lives a bit better. Connecting people and just connecting with people and connecting to other people is a great thing. And like we've kind of like a theme throughout this podcast is really like that connection with humanity. And I think that's kind of like maybe lacking a little bit in some industries and some parts of the world. And to your point before, like AI will probably take over and change things completely drastically. But I think the human connection and really important. So executive search is like you're always going to need the human side of things, and AI will replace a few kind of elements, but like this kind of one-on-one interaction is never going to go away.
And we're using AI in everything. I mean, we're really like, I'm quite a big fan of like, simplifying our processes and, using it for the high impact stuff. And for us, like we're using it for everything. It's great, whether transcribing calls, research, stuff like that. It's been really useful for us the last year, we'll say. To wrap up, we are halfway through the year right now. Was the first 6 months what you expected? What's your view on like economy, hiring, your sense of like, the conflicts and stuff going on? Where do you see us 6 months from now?
But I think unfortunately like conflict has become like the new norm, right? During COVID, everyone's saying, oh, this is a new norm, like social distancing and everything. But now, unfortunately, conflict has now become the new norm. There's always something going on like Russia, Ukraine, or like going on in Israel, Iran at the moment as well. So there's always something going on. And unfortunately, I think that's going to continue for the foreseeable future. I don't see that kind of like going away, even though negotiations are going on and parties are saying they're willing to come to the table. But I don't know if it's ever really going to go away, because been there for like centuries, and there's kind of like tension in history. So that's still going to stay around, and that obviously will affect the markets and how the economy runs, and then that affects like how jobs come up and things like that, and how people move around. There's obviously some industries are more affected than others. Like you're talking about before, oil industry and energy industry is largely affected by oil prices and kind of how the conflicts are going on with the Middle East. I think we touched upon this before, but like fintech and is kind of very much growing, and AI is still growing a lot. I think some of the big tech companies are now kind of like transitioning more into the AI field as well. So that's super interesting. And then some of the things that the companies are going to be probably broken down, I suspect, because there's been kind of more competition going on. It's interesting because like Google just bought a stake in Gentle Monster. It's a eyewear company, so it's like directly competing against like Meta in that kind of space, the Ray-Ban relationship. I like the idea of this open source AI models. So Llama, Meta's kind of model, but then obviously there's the OpenAI kind of less open perspective, and there's been a lot of tension there. I think it's going to be super interesting. Obviously Google's got the scale, Meta's got the scale.
There's some really interesting industries that are growing very quick. The other's life sciences, some really amazing things going on. My kind of take on this next 6 months, I mean, ultimately I have absolutely no idea. I remember when I set up the company, it's like 15 years ago now, and I basically I chose like some people that were like successful in business, older folks. I'm like, right, I want to go and chat to you and be like, what do you think? And the thing about setting up a search firm, showed them the business plan or whatever. And then at that time, there was, what's the 5-10 year plan? You know, and that now, right? I mean, 5-year plan. I mean, you can have a 5-year view maybe on just, you know, trends and stuff, but now in business now, I think you've got to be very adaptable. Things change so quick. 6 months time, you know, you'll find not many people that will put their flag in the sand and be like 100% this is what's going to happen next 6 months. The biggest lesson for me I've had is like, you have some great years. There's always great years. There's also bad years. That's the game, right? There's never always good and it's never always bad. And often the trick is like, you know, in the good times, just remember what it's like in the bad times and just be sensible with your cash flow, your P&L. That's whether you're running a business or running your personal family P&L. Because, you know, again, you might have a job and earning lots of money one day and not the next. So you got to kind of just have this view of things. Course correct if you need to. If it's a strength to change course with new information. People get so caught up in like just dogmatically sticking to their opinion on something when really they know it should change. If you're out of work, I know it's hard. A lot of people struggle, certainly senior leaders. It's tough to find the right thing. It takes a bit of time, but keep going. If that's, you know, if you're in that spot, network hard and stuff. You know. Great to have you on board. Watch this space. Anyone is hiring in APAC, reach out.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been great chatting as always. And looking forward to getting stuck in and building up the APAC business.